me to be in the video? Okay. Inktober 2023 was the first big project I completed after graduating art college in the spring. I completed the challenge once before in 2019 during my gap year, but both times I participated were for the same reasons. I needed more work in my portfolio, and I wanted to get my art in front of a wider audience. I wanted to make this video to give some insight on what went on behind the scenes and kind of what the creative process was like. So here are 5 things that I picked up this time around. First one was the digital design test. I will admit, a couple of pieces I drew during Inktober did not go as planned. I was having trouble deciding how I wanted to communicate certain sections of the designs. I got to the point in the inking process where I was asking myself questions like, well, do I want to fill in this section with ink or should I leave it blank? Do I want this line to be thicker or thinner? And at first, I just went with my gut, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes I messed up the piece. And I was really discouraged. I was used to working in traditional media, like how you work in an art college class, which is you try a technique, see what the professor thinks, make changes if they want, and if the art ends up being a bust, well, you still have a ton of pieces you need to complete before the end of the semester. You just start the project over or accept it and move on. But that mindset didn't make good use of my time or my materials. I didn't have to rush myself for graded deadlines anymore, so it was time for me to change my approach and my process. My husband Luke, who's also an artist, recommended that I try my ideas out digitally before I ink them, and I found a little process. So I would recognize when a design decision needed to be made, and I would put my pen down, which was the hard part. I always wanted to push forward and keep working, but instead you'd take a picture on your iPad and draw over it and decide if that design decision was the route you wanted to take or if you wanted to rethink your approach. Asking for a second opinion was also very helpful because when you've been staring at a piece of art for hours on end, it's easy to miss obvious mistakes. It's just the nature of things. My second takeaway was make your reference photos work for you. Most artists use reference photos during some part of their creative process. I personally divide my reference photos into 2 categories. There's subject reference, which is like a pose that you want to replicate. And then there's stylistic reference, which is another artist's technique that you want to replicate or put your own spin on. Combining 2 or more of these photos creates a mood board. When you look for photos that you want to use as reference, you should look for areas that are easily simplified, such as like strong shape silhouettes or areas with high contrast. Some examples of ink artists that I used as stylistic reference this month were Bernie Wrightson, Franklin Booth, Jeffrey Catherine Jones, James Montgomery Flagg, Charles Dana Gibson, Sid Mead, and John Paul Leon. It is so important to find other artists you admire while pursuing your own artistic journey. Having someone to look up to is a great way to motivate yourself to keep growing. Keep your 2 kinds of reference visible during your drawing process. This will help you stay on course with your goal for the piece. My collection of copyright-free reference photos came from Pexels.com, a great resource. You've got studios and artists who are posting their own photographs for you to use copyright-free, which is really nice. All other inspiration comes from my own reference photography, art books, or Pinterest. Pinterest is great. Pinterest is your friend. My third takeaway was set aside time dedicated to Inktober. I discovered early on that I had to be very firm with myself and set good boundaries about making sure I used my dedicated time for Inktober and Inktober only. If I didn't give myself enough time, I would rush and enjoy the drawing process less, and actually end up with a product that I was overall less satisfied with. At this point in my career, I'm an independent creator and I'm searching for galleries to show my art and clients to sell to. That means aside from gallery submission due dates, I have these vast expanses of unstructured time and a lot to get done within them. My rhythm came to me during Inktober, which granted a large factor in my ability to stay on time was working ahead. I tried to keep a 3 to 5 day buffer between when I created the content and when I posted it. My schedule was in the mornings between 9:30 and noon. I would finish collecting my reference for the day, I would sketch my line work, and I would post my video. In the afternoons between 1 and 4 p.m., I would ink my art, upload my unedited footage to the computer, find a copyright-free sound for the background, edit my video in Adobe Premiere Pro, and then make sure I had enough reference photos to do it all again tomorrow. Sometimes I could fit 2 drawings into an afternoon if the art was simple enough. There were many nights when I had to keep working after dinner to finish editing my videos. Luke also helped by editing a handful of videos for me when I just simply didn't have time. I want to say that I know my Inktober schedule this year was a bit on the extreme side. I used it as part of my marketing and portfolio building strategy, which is my full-time job right now. It is by no means the only way to complete the challenge. When I first completed the challenge back in 2019, I was working full-time, and I only posted my final image to Instagram, and that saved me a lot of time. I also want to be clear. It is okay to fall behind. Posting something completely original every single day for an entire month is a lot to ask for. You are not a bad artist or a failure if life catches up with you. The pace at which Inktober operates is not a long-term sustainable workflow for most folks. I, for one, am very excited to get back to working on projects that take me multiple days to complete. That's my happy place, and I know that. My 4th takeaway is plan your content posting. The platforms I post my videos to are TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and Pinterest. And it takes me about an hour to post my daily Inktober videos on all 4 platforms. It helps to have a notes file handy with all your hashtags to copy and paste from. Make sure you have some broad category hashtags and some specific category hashtags. An example of a broad category hashtag for Inktober would be art. That's pretty broad. And a specific category hashtag would be like hashtag Inktober 2023. That's very specific. Also, research prime content posting times based on your time zone and decide if you want to commit to that schedule. You can use your entire lunch break to post because that's when everybody else is on social media. You can plan your content ahead within the app to post at a set time if your content's ready beforehand. Or you could just post when it's ready and let that be that. I mean, luck is a huge contributing factor into who's actually going to see your work, so just keep that in mind when you start stressing about, content and posting times. Takeaway number 5, size matters. I chose to work on 7 by 8.5 sheets of Bristol paper instead of in a sketchbook, which allowed me to have a lot more freedom while filming because I didn't have to wrestle with pinning open the book, which would have been a real pain. It also made things easier for me if I messed up a page and I had to start over. If I could go back to the beginning of Inktober, I wouldn't change that. But I would change what size paper I'm working on. I'd probably work 8 by 10 or larger because I realized you can always increase the size of the paper you're working on, but you can't decrease the size of your pen. There were definitely times when I found that the smallest pen that I own, a 005 felt tip micron pen, was still too chunky. And I was forced in the spur of the moment to simplify my design and move on instead of getting to do the detail I wanted to do. And working on a medium-sized paper did have the advantage of it was faster because I had less ground to cover. but going a larger scale would have given me the opportunity to really delve into the detail that I wanted to do. It's something I will not forget next time I do a project in ink. In closing, Inktober is a great way to practice fast-paced content creation, and I recommend no matter where you are in your artistic journey that you give it a shot. Art challenges are wonderful opportunities to step outside your comfort zone, share your art, and strengthen your portfolio, which is always a bonus. Most of all, they provide a safe space for you to practice setting goals for yourself and completing them, which is a skill that you're going to use in every single area of your life, I can guarantee it. So I want you to pick up your pen, get lost in your imagination, and go make some art. This video is the culmination of more than a month of hard work, and I want to thank you for watching. If you learned something new or were inspired to create, like my video and subscribe to my channel so you can see what I make for you next time.